Hello, investors. This is Zhang, portfolio manager at Revere Asset Management. Today is Friday, September 26th, 4:34 p.m., coming to you from New York City, New York. State of the market, still an uptrend. Market leaders, we still have a green arrow. Well, we really still have the four coveted green arrows, but we do have a neutral sub-yellow arrow for market leaders, as we have seen some momentum unwinding, even though there's still normal action. Many of these stocks are extended out of basis and simply they just need to digest. But the key now is ascertaining whether they have constructive digestions or more becomes volatile and more of a distributive tape. Short term, we also have the yellow sub arrow as RSP mid caps broke their 21 EMAs. But we saw some reclaims today, but we're waiting for two reclaims or two closes above the 21 before we take off that yellow sub arrow. No changes on the medium-term trend and long-term trend, both still above the respective moving averages for all major indexes. What happened today? Favorable PCE prevents a fourth down day in a row. 21 over 21 list down 0.43%. 7 up, 1 neutral, 13 down. Turbo 12 down 0.70%. 6 up, 0 neutral, 6 down. You can see the leaders are weaker today. Big 8 up 0.65%, RG8 up 0.86%, S&P 500 up 0.59%, RSP up 0.99%, the Qs up 0.41%, QQEW up 0.86%, Dow Jones up 0.65%, midcaps up 1.02%, Russell up 0.97%, Global 60/40 equities bonds up 0.35%, GROTECTION up 0.13%, and Turbo down 0.82%. Jumping right into it, as always, starting off with the S&P 500 chart. You can see yesterday, or 2 days ago, we closed below 8. Yesterday, we gapped down below the 8 further. I found support at the 21 EMA in this previous 917 low of about 65.50. Today, we reclaimed the 8 EMA, so this is good action. Although yesterday it was above average volume, today was lower than that. RSP, like what we talked about, reclaimed the AN21 after closing below the AN21 on the 50-day yesterday. Good start. We want to see this follow through. The Qs didn't reclaim the 8 today, but continues to hold the 21. Looking for this to reclaim that next Monday. QQEW, breaking left side peak of this base. Gap down below 8, found support at 21. Reclaim the 8 today. I want to see this cup with handle trigger now above this flat top. We had volume come in as well in the last 3 days, and the QQEW was below average volume and contracting. So that is constructive price and volume action. The Dow Jones Industrial Average failed breakout 3 days down, distribution day, but found support to 21, reclaimed the 8. So as of now, we're still just trending in this channel right here. And that is the same for the Qs and the S&P 500. Continue on, mid-caps, found support the 50, 3,200 level right here, reclaimed the 21, but still below the 8. And then Russell found support 2,400, this 21 EMA area, this previous low right here, and still closed below the 8 EMA. If we look at the IWM though, same thing, similar action. The VIX, give me 1 second. Looking at the VIX, let me just make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. Looking at the VIX, 15 handle now. That's a good sign, seeing volatility come down or stay suppressed, even though on this pullback. So that's definitely a good sign. And then going on to the dollar, we popped above the 821 and 50, pulling back to retest it. But this dollar looks pretty strong right now, and we might be headed for a retest of the 100 level. Look at a weekly chart. That is a key UNR level. With the stronger dollar, multinational corporations will receive less revenues from abroad, so that could weaken some stocks, and typically why strong dollar leads to weaker stocks. In Bitcoin, we continue to hold this 109,000 level. We briefly reclaimed 110K, but found resistance at the 150-day moving average. ETH finds support at this previous breakout. And if you look at a longer term chart, we're at this 4,100 level here. So a reclaim of 4,100, and that could be an undercut reclaim opportunity, although that would just be a starter size, nothing too big as we are below the 10, 20, and 50-day moving averages. And then finally, looking at bonds real quick, nothing too much. Two years down a basis point, almost 2 basis points, 10-year was flat on the day. Although after the cuts, it has risen about 15 basis points. That said, that is it for the inter-asset correlation part of the video. I want to bring up the tail of the tape. Let's just go over some of this real quick. We're still operating on the bull case, held at 21 EMA. The main news today was that PCE came in line. I'll just list off some news items. Headline PCE month over month was 0.3 versus 0.3 expected. Year over year, 2.7% versus 2.7 expected. Core PCE 0.2 versus 0.2, and then core PCE year over year is 2.9 versus 2.9. Personal income, people spent more, 0.4% versus 0.3%. And that's personal income, people made more. And then personal spending, 0.6% versus 0.5%. So no signs of recession right now so far. Other piece of news, Trump levied more tariffs, 100% for imported branded and generic pharmaceuticals and no plant being built in the US. 25% tariff for heavy trucks, 50% tariff for kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and associated products, and a 30% tariff for upholstered furniture. And then San Francisco Fed President Daly, he's a non-FOMC voter, says more rate cuts likely ahead, but cautions against moving too quickly. In earnings, Costco company beat Q4 expectations. And this is just some other news. The Trump administration plans a one-to-one chip production rule. So pretty much what happens is that they're going to levy tariffs on firms that do not sustain a one-to-one ratio of producing chips domestically versus abroad. Another big deal Trump signed was they're buying TikTok from ByteDance at a valuation of $14 billion, and just some other miscellaneous pieces of news. It seems like a government shutdown seems inevitable as both sides don't want to budge. And then Google and Baidu have robotaxi and robotics news. So that revolution has yet to begun yet. Some upgrades on Tesla, which is why it was strong. Daniel Ives of Wedbush is optimistic about their AI revolution and robotics. Same with Deutsche Bank as well. So that is news. Today's keys, we closed with the 21E on the S&P, the Qs, and the Russell. Day count down 3 to up 4. Like I said, PCE, favorable PCE saved a fourth down day in a row. 1 day below the 8 EMA to 1 day above now, 19 days above the 21. So short-term expectations are still positive. S&P ATR is up to 0.78% as well. Sectors, bond yields are up, so bonds are down. 12 out of 12 S&P sectors are up today. Biotech, gold, silver, home builders, oil and gas followed along as well. On the downside, the dollar, WGMI, which is more of the crypto miners turned data center names, as well as China is down today. In GROTECTION, we added to MP 1.38 beta, 5.22% open heat. Let's take a look at MP real quick. After yesterday's massive update of 8%, at some points 30%, we rejected that top. We declined 11% today, unfortunately, but we're at the bundle moving average here, the 821.50. Really have to hold. This could just turn into a cup with handle. Maybe eventually it gets tight like that, and then we head off to the races. In Turbo, no changes today. So 1.48 beta, 4.67% open heat. Bottom line, favorable PCE prevents a fourth down day. Into Monday's keys, we're watching S&P and versus the 8 and 21 EMA, the Qs versus the 8 and 21 EMA, and the Russell versus the 8 and 21 EMA. So that being said, that's it for the tail of the tape. I do want to show one thing though. Yesterday we had the first net lows reading. Let's just check up on that live with you guys together. Let's look at it. This is the S&P net highs and lows. We're back into net high territory with plus 54. And let's see the NASDAQ. This is the cumulative for the NASDAQ. And let's go right here. We're also back in the net highs. So that's a good sign as well. We talked about CNN fear and greed, talked about AAII and NAM as well. And so that is it for the tail of the tape. I just want to take us through a couple charts. We talked about MP, and I just want to see this happen here. This could just be the potential of a new coupled handle base. The first contraction, maybe this is a second contraction like that. We bounce up like that, something like that. So that's the ideal scenario. We'll see if that happens. Of course, we don't always get what we want. A name that is notable is Intel. It gapped up on that NVIDIA news 3 down days in a row, and then found support, broke 30, and it's seen this momentum burst so far. And finally, Tesla showed tremendous RS today with, I believe, the highest weekly close of all time. So that is tremendous action. Some other pieces that I want to cover, as always, is going over, since it's Friday, let's go over the portfolio real quick of GROTECTION and Turbo one by one. We talked about S&P, so we don't have to do that. Tesla's in both portfolios. We just talked about that. Hood is also in both portfolios, just trending nicely above the 8 and 21. Not too much to talk about there. Dash, building a couple with handle here. This is only a GROTECTION. MP, a both portfolio name. We talked about the volatility. Palantir, a GROTECTION name. Looking to build potential cup with handle here. Nvidia, a GROTECTION name. Seeing some volatility, contraction right here. Potential buy over 180. This is actually starting to look really, really good through this level right here. If we zoom into the 60-minute chart, this 180 level looks more apparent. So I'm watching that closely. And we're past earnings as well. And now we have the power of 3 set up to 821 and 50. So that could present a pretty decent opportunity. Let's go to Snow. GROTECTION only name, gap up. Continues to hold the gap days low, forming this triangle. So over like 225 is a good look. And then finally, 2 more names. NBIZ is only a grow name. Nice earnings continuation setup. And then CoreWeave. We're sitting in this right now. Fall through to the downside. Broke 25, but some back and fill action is totally normal, while the 50-day is still declining. So perhaps we come back here, 50-day turns up, build something like that, and then we head higher from that angle of attack. In Turbo, we have IWM. We talked about that. We have the MSTZ short, so MSTR. We broke this bear flag. You can see parabolic top 6 to 8 months ago. 1 fail, 2 fails, 3, 4 fails above the 50, roll over below all key moving averages, rejected the 200, and bear flag. So we're holding this short, still looks great, showing major relative weakness. Tesla, we talked about, MP talked about, CoreWeave. ALAB actually is out of the portfolio, so I have to delete that out of the tail of the tape. BABA is still acting really well, trading above the 8 EMA. LEU, same thing. You made new highs, but reversed. But still good action. We're just trailing at 8 and 21 at this point. So that being said, that's it for the portfolio review. Now on to the 21 over 21 list. App 11 up 4.7% today. Just extraordinary relative strength. Just linear action above the 8 EMA. Let's see what happens here. Great earnings and sales. You can see triple digits in the last 4 quarters. That's shown on screen. Revenues are accelerating. That's why the stock's heading higher. Tesla, I don't need to talk about that again. Reddit living below the 21 EMA, so this is likely going to get cut from the 21 over 21. Gold just continues to frozen rope higher in this channel. Gold has been extremely strong, as we saw before, making new highs. MongoDB, MDB, finding support at the 8 and 21 EMA. We'll see what happens here. There's this downtrend line that we can watch for potential buy in MDB. If you look at the weekly, huge weekly base, but historically has been so choppy all over the place and really can't make a sustainable gain in linear fashion. VLO oil name continues higher. We've seen some relative strength starting in XLE, but you can see the RS line is still declining. So hasn't made new higher highs yet with that line. On the downside, MP, we already talked about this name. Didn't quite fail breakout, but did pause right below left side peak. We probably just need to build a handle here. CoreWeave continues lower after the reversal. ALAB living below the 821 and the 200 level now. These names can drop so fast. 25% drop in a few days. CRDO, same thing, 25% drop, living below the 821. First Solar trending nicely, but it's just so choppy. See, it's like it barely can move linearly. Days in this name, you don't see, for example, previous day's lows hold and then new candles closing below previous day's closes. You just have a lot of this choppy action, and that's not how I like a stock to trade. STX, this is what we like to call a constructive digestion. 4 days, but really constructive and volume declining. Net just chopping around as well in the SE. We're out of this name below the 21 EMA. Turbo now, Turbo 12, silver is strong, so PAAS makes a new all-time high. Bloom Energy gaps down below the 21 EMA. Reclaims yesterday, so we actually got shaken out, but we caught the meat of the move, and it was a small 1% trailing position. Wayfair reclaims at 8 and 21, looks decent. Unity below that 21 EMA, so likely going to get cut. KRMN undercut reclaims with 8 EMA yesterday and continues higher today. Tempest just a failed breakout in the FDA news and now below the 821. This just needs a lot more time now. That's a huge bearish engulfing on the weekly, ugly chart, choppy action. Rocket Lab closing below the 50, 8 and 21 as well. Not the greatest action either. CRDO recovered. AAOI rejected left side peak, now below the 8 and 21 as well. INOQ, this is a constructive pullback, to be honest. Look for a high type flag to build here. METC pulls back to the 8 EMA. Herein pulls back to the 8. We sold it yesterday, so we were able to save some profits on that one. And with that, that wraps up the Turbo 12 and the video today. So if you're interested in what we do at Revere and want to talk to us or interested in becoming a client, you can email me at ted@revereasset.com. My Twitter X is Ted H. Zhang. Our phone is 855 Real Wealth. That's 855-732-5932. Our website is revereasset.com. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up today's video. Last one this week as well. This is Ted Zhang, portfolio manager at Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thank you for listening and have a great rest of your week. And have a great weekend, everyone.